There are moments in life when you quietly question the nature of a connection standing right in front of you, wondering whether this person truly belongs in your life or if their presence is simply a temporary crossing of paths. And this question is not limited to romance. It extends to friendships, partnerships, mentors, and even those unexpected individuals who appear at precisely the moment you needed something you could not yet name. According to Carl Jung, these encounters are rarely accidental because the external world often reflects processes unfolding within the unconscious, revealing aspects of ourselves we have not yet fully recognized or understood. When you feel a strange familiarity with someone, a sense that goes beyond logic, it may not be something you can easily explain, yet it resonates deeply, almost as if something inside you recognizes them before your mind does. Jung described this phenomenon as synchronicity, a meaningful coincidence where inner and outer realities align in a way that feels purposeful rather than random, as if life itself is quietly guiding you toward an experience that holds significance for your growth. But the challenge lies in distinguishing between a genuine connection and an illusion created by longing, projection, or unresolved needs. This is where the unconscious becomes essential, because every relationship acts as a mirror, reflecting parts of your inner world back to you. If you repeatedly find yourself surrounded by people who drain your energy, create instability, or make you question your worth, it is not simply misfortune, it is an invitation to look inward and understand what within you is allowing these patterns to continue. When a connection is truly aligned with who you are, there is no constant tension between your authentic self and the version of yourself you feel pressured to become. You do not experience the need to hide parts of who you are, nor do you feel compelled to reshape yourself to meet someone else's expectations. Instead, there is a natural sense of being seen and understood, not because the other person idealizes you, but because their presence resonates with your own sense of self. Jung referred to this as part of the individuation process, the journey of becoming who you truly are beyond roles, masks, and external validation. As you move along this path, you begin to recognize which connections align with your truth and which ones do not. Not because people suddenly change, but because your awareness becomes clearer. If you reflect on your past, you may notice how often you held on to relationships that, deep down, did not feel right. Connections filled with tension, inconsistency, or emotional struggle, where you felt as though you had to earn affection or constantly prove your value. These experiences are not necessarily signs that someone is wrong or that you're flawed, but rather indications of misalignment, a mismatch between your essence and what the relationship demands of you. The unconscious constantly seeks balance, and when you move through life engaging in relationships that deplete you, your mind and body eventually respond with signals that something is out of harmony. This can manifest as emotional exhaustion, anxiety, loss of motivation, or even physical symptoms that seem difficult to explain, all of which are expressions of a deeper imbalance asking to be acknowledged. In contrast, when someone is genuinely right for you, their presence does not create a constant internal struggle. This does not mean the relationship will be perfect or free from challenges, but it does mean that beneath any difficulty, there is a sense of stability, an ease that allows you to remain grounded in who you are. You experience a quiet form of belonging, a connection that does not require you to sacrifice your identity in order to maintain it. Jung believed that meaningful relationships emerge when individuals are connected to themselves, because it is through this internal alignment that we can truly recognize others who resonate with us. Without that connection to yourself, it becomes easy to confuse intensity with compatibility or attachment with genuine understanding. There is also a deeper dimension to human connection that Jung explored, the idea that certain encounters feel significant because they activate something within us that is ready to grow. Throughout life, we accumulate experiences, wounds, and lessons, and often, without realizing it, we are drawn to people who reflect these unresolved aspects back to us. If someone enters your life and inspires expansion, encourages authenticity, and invites you to become more fully yourself rather than less, it is a sign that the connection holds meaning. However, this does not necessarily imply permanence, because not all meaningful relationships are meant to last indefinitely. Some exist only for a period of time, serving a purpose in your development before naturally coming to an end. On the other hand, if you repeatedly find yourself in relationships where your actions are driven by fear, where you feel compelled to prove your worth or avoid abandonment, it becomes important to pause and ask what within you is seeking validation through these experiences. Are you choosing these connections MTVKH, a place of self-respect, or are they rooted in the fear of being alone? Jung viewed loneliness not as something to escape, but as a necessary space for self-discovery, a place where you confront yourself without distraction. When you learn to be comfortable in your own presence, the urgency to seek external validation begins to dissolve, and from that place, more authentic relationships can emerge naturally. The essence of this process is not about searching for the right person, but about becoming aligned with yourself. When you cultivate a genuine relationship with who you are, you no longer need to force connections or convince others of your worth. Instead, relationships unfold more organically, reflecting the clarity and stability you have developed within. And if you have ever experienced someone entering your life at a moment when you needed clarity, support, or even challenge, it is worth paying attention to the impact they had, because these encounters often carry meaning beyond what is immediately visible. Life presents moments of alignment, but recognizing them requires introspection, the willingness to understand your own patterns, and the courage to release what no longer resonates. Jung emphasized that the external world is deeply connected to the internal one, meaning that the relationships you experience are not random occurrences but reflections of your psychological state. If you consistently find yourself in situations that create insecurity or emotional emptiness, it becomes necessary to examine what beliefs or perceptions within you might be contributing to those experiences. This is not about blame, but about awareness, because without awareness, patterns repeat themselves in different forms, giving the illusion of fate while remaining rooted in the same unconscious dynamics. When you begin to recognize these patterns, you gain the ability to shift them, moving from seeking fulfillment externally to cultivating it internally. A key concept Jung introduced to explain this is projection, the tendency to attribute aspects of yourself onto others without realizing it. When certain parts of your personality remain unconscious, You may see them reflected in the people you attract, interpreting their behavior in ways that mirror your own internal state. For example, if you feel undervalued in a relationship, it is worth asking whether there is a part of you that struggles to recognize your own worth. This does not mean the external situation is irrelevant, but it highlights the connection between your internal perception and your external experience. The unconscious communicates through these reflections, encouraging you to integrate what has been overlooked. If you have experienced relationships where you felt neglected or had to compete for attention, it is possible that there is an underlying fear of rejection that has shaped your expectations of love. Perhaps at some point, you learned that affection must be earned rather than freely given, and this belief continues to influence your choices. When a connection is truly aligned, there is no ongoing need to prove your value or secure your place in someone's life. The interaction feels mutual, balanced, and supportive, allowing both individuals to exist without constant tension or insecurity. But reaching this point requires a willingness to observe your own patterns honestly. Consider the relationships you have experienced over time and notice whether certain dynamics repeat themselves, whether similar emotions arise in different contexts, or whether the same challenges appear in new forms. These repetitions are not signs that you're destined to relive the same experiences, but rather indications that there is something within you seeking understanding. Jung believed that bringing the unconscious into awareness is essential because until you do, it continues to shape your life in ways that feel beyond your control. What appears to be fate is often the result of patterns that have not yet been recognized. Imagine standing before two paths, one familiar and predictable, shaped by choices you have made before, and another uncertain, filled with possibilities but also discomfort. Many people choose the familiar path, even when it leads to dissatisfaction, because it feels safe in its predictability. The fear of the unknown can be stronger than the desire for change, keeping you within cycles that no longer serve you. Yet if you truly seek a different kind of connection, one that brings peace rather than confusion, you must be willing to step into the unfamiliar and make different choices. You cannot expect new experiences while repeating the same patterns, and you cannot build a relationship grounded in authenticity if parts of you remain disconnected from yourself. Jung would suggest that before finding the right person, you must become the version of yourself capable of sustaining that connection. And this involves confronting the aspects of yourself that have contributed to past patterns. It requires honesty, courage, and a willingness to explore the deeper layers of your psyche, including those that are uncomfortable or difficult to face. Take a moment to reflect on the connections that have left a lasting impact on you, the ones that shaped your understanding of yourself and others. Consider the emotions they brought, the lessons they carried, and the ways in which they influenced your perception of love and belonging. Beneath each experience, there is a message, something your unconscious is attempting to reveal. And within that realization lies an important truth. No one else can complete you, heal you, or provide what you have not yet cultivated within yourself. Relationships can support growth, but they cannot replace the work that must be done internally. When the right person enters your life, their presence does not create chaos or force you into emotional struggle. Instead, It invites growth without razrashini, encouraging you to expand while remaining grounded in who you are. They respect your individuality, support your development, and allow the connection to exist without pressure or constant negotiation. But to recognize such a connection, you must ensure that your choices are not driven by fear, insecurity, or the need for validation. Because ultimately, the journey toward meaningful relationships begins within, and the clarity you develop there determines the quality of every connection that follows. There is a common misunderstanding when it comes to relationships, the belief that they exist to fill something missing within us, as if another person could somehow complete what we feel we lack. But relationships do not function that way. They are not designed to repair emptiness, but to reflect what is already present inside you. Jung emphasized that everything you encounter externally is connected to your internal world, which means that the people you meet often mirror your beliefs, your wounds, and your level of self-awareness. So, if you want to understand whether someone is truly right for you, the first question is not about them, but about yourself, about what you're seeking and why. You may have experienced meeting someone who seemed to arrive at exactly the right moment, someone whose presence brought comfort, clarity, or even a sense of relief. At first, everything feels aligned, almost as if this person is the answer you had been searching for. But over time, subtle inconsistencies begin to appear, small behaviors or attitudes that do not fully match the image you initially created. A quiet discomfort begins to grow, something difficult to explain, yet impossible to ignore. And still, many people choose to overlook it, holding on to the idea of what the connection could be rather than accepting what it truly is. In those moments, your intuition is already speaking, but the real question is whether you're willing to listen. Jung viewed intuition as a direct expression of the unconscious, a form of inner knowing that does not rely on logic or external validation. While the rational mind can justify almost anything, convincing you to remain in situations that are not aligned with you, intuition operates differently. It does not argue or explain, it simply signals. And when something feels off, even in subtle ways, that signal should not be dismissed. When a connection is truly right, it does not create a constant inner conflict. You do not feel as though you must carefully monitor your words or behavior to maintain harmony. There is no persistent sense of tension or the need to adjust yourself to avoid losing the other person. Instead, there is a quiet sense of ease, a stability that allows you to exist naturally within the relationship. One of the clearest signs of alignment is peace, not the absence of all challenges, but the absence of internal struggle about whether you belong in that connection. Many people confuse intensity with authenticity, believing that strong emotions, dramatic highs and lows, or overwhelming attraction are signs of deep connection. But intensity can often be a reflection of unresolved patterns rather than genuine compatibility. True connection does not rely on extremes. It is grounded in mutual respect, clarity, and emotional safety. It allows both individuals to feel free rather than constrained, supported rather than depleted. If you look back, you may recall times when you ignored your intuition, when the signs were present from the beginning, yet you chose to stay. Perhaps you feared losing the connection, or perhaps the desire to feel loved overshadowed your inner voice. Jung would interpret this as the unconscious attempting to resolve past experiences through present relationships, repeating patterns in the hope of achieving a different outcome. But without awareness, these patterns tend to recreate the same dynamics, leading to similar results. It is also worth considering why certain people appear during significant moments in your life. Jung described how synchronicity can bring individuals into your path when you are undergoing change, not necessarily to remain forever, but to contribute to your growth. Sometimes, these people are not meant to be permanent companions, but catalysts, reflecting aspects of yourself that are ready to evolve. Their presence may challenge you, inspire you, or even disrupt your current understanding of yourself. But in doing so, they reveal something essential. This is why it is important to ask not only whether someone is right for you, but also what their presence is showing you. If being with them encourages you to grow, to confront your fears, and to move closer to your authentic self without forcing you to abandon who you are, then the connection serves a meaningful purpose. But if the relationship leaves you feeling drained, uncertain, or disconnected from yourself, then it is a clear indication of misalignment. Life continuously presents experiences that invite you to evolve, but recognizing these opportunities requires awareness. If you find yourself constantly chasing someone, investing all your energy while receiving little in return, or feeling as though you're moving in circles without progress, it is necessary to question the motivation behind that connection. Are you acting MTVKH, a place of love, or MTVKH, a place of need? Because these two states lead to entirely different experiences. Love that is rooted in authenticity does not demand that you lose yourself. It does not require constant sacrifice or emotional struggle to survive. A person who is truly aligned with you will not place you in a position where you must choose between being yourself and being accepted. Instead, they will create a space where both can coexist naturally. Authentic love is not complicated, nor is it a problem that needs to be solved through effort or strategy. It exists without force, without manipulation, and without the constant fear of loss. If you have ever experienced a connection where you felt completely at ease, where you could express yourself freely without fear of judgment or rejection, then you have already encountered what alignment feels like. It is not about dependency or filling a void, but about sharing your life with someone whose presence complements rather than completes you. But reaching that point requires a difficult question. Are you willing to release what is not aligned with you? Many people claim they want the right person, yet they remain attached to connections that clearly do not support their growth. They justify, they wait, they hope that time will transform what is fundamentally incompatible. And in doing so, they prolong experiences that prevent them from moving forward. Jung would suggest that nothing meaningful can develop in an environment that does not support it. Holding on to what is misaligned only reinforces the cycle. However, the moment you choose yourself, everything begins to shift. When you decide to let go of what no longer resonates, when you accept the possibility of being alone rather than remaining in a connection that limits you, you create space for something different to enter your life. This is not about chance or luck, but about alignment. When your internal state changes, your external experiences begin to reflect that change. If you are currently questioning whether someone in your life is right for you, Take a moment to pause and turn your attention inward. Set aside the fear of losing them, the fear of loneliness, and the attachment to what you hoped the connection would become. Instead, focus on how you feel in their presence. Do you experience peace? Do you feel free to be yourself? Do they support your growth? Or do you feel tension, effort, and uncertainty? Love is not meant to feel like a continuous struggle. It is not a battlefield where you must constantly fight to be seen, valued, or understood. When a connection is truly meant for you, there is a sense of certainty that does not require constant analysis. It is not something your mind needs to convince you of, but something your entire being recognizes without doubt. And if you feel that this kind of connection has not yet appeared in your life, there is no need to search desperately for it. What you're looking for externally must first be established internally. When you learn to value yourself without relying on external validation, when you become comfortable in your own presence, you naturally begin to attract relationships that reflect that stability. Jung taught that the answers to the most important questions are found within, not outside. The journey toward meaningful connection begins with self-understanding, with the willingness to explore your inner world and recognize the patterns that shape your experiences. As you develop this awareness, your life begins to align in ways that feel more coherent, more intentional. When the right person eventually enters your life, it will not feel overwhelming or chaotic. It will feel calm, steady, and clear. There will be no need for constant reassurance, no underlying fear that the connection might disappear at any moment. Instead, there will be trust, mutual respect, and a shared understanding that does not need to be forced. True love, as Jung described it, is not about possession or dependency. It is about connection between two individuals who are both committed to their own growth while supporting each other's journey. The right person will not ask you to abandon your identity or sacrifice your aspirations. They will encourage you to expand, to evolve, and to remain true to yourself. In such a relationship, there are no power struggles or emotional games. There is presence, a genuine and consistent presence that creates a sense of safety and belonging. But it is important to remember that recognizing this kind of connection requires inner work. If you remain trapped in cycles driven by fear or insecurity, you may overlook what is truly aligned with you or fail to sustain it. The most profound realization is that the quality of your relationships is directly linked to the relationship you have with yourself. When you develop self-awareness, self-respect, and emotional stability, it becomes much clearer who belongs in your life and who does not. You no longer seek someone to complete you, but someone to share your life with. So the next time you ask yourself whether someone is right for you, begin with a different question. Are you aligned with yourself? Because when you are, the answer becomes obvious. The right person does not need to be chased or convinced. They recognize you just as naturally as you recognize them. And if you have not yet found that person, do not see it as something missing. See it as an opportunity to deepen your connection with yourself, to release what no longer serves you, and to become the most authentic version of who you are. Because when you do, the relationships that enter your life will reflect that authenticity. When that connection finally appears, You will not be overwhelmed by doubt or anxiety. You will not feel the need to force anything or question your place. It will feel natural, effortless, like returning to a place you have always known. In a world that often feels chaotic and uncertain, it will offer a sense of stability, a space where you can simply exist as yourself. And that is how you know, not through analysis, not through external validation, but through a quiet certainty that does not require explanation. When the right person arrives, you will recognize it not because everything is perfect, but because nothing within you feels out of place. And before that moment comes, the most important task remains the same: to truly find yourself.